Hey guys, let's see what's happening today. Chapter 64, The Special Robot. After Brightbill told the story about his winter, and his mother sat in silence and thought. They thought about the poor Loudneck and the human who had killed him. They thought about the farms and the cities and the factories. They thought about Roz and where she truly belonged. And after a while, Roz told Brightbill that her own winter story. She spoke of her long, dark hibernation and how she had woken to find the nest caved in around her. She spoke of the blizzards and the frozen animals. She spoke of the many lodges that she had built and the one that had caught fire. But most she spoke of the new friendships that she had forged. I used to think that you were the only animal who would ever care for me, she said to her son. I worried that without you, I would be alone again. But I was not alone. In fact, I made new friends, all on my own. I think the other animals might actually like me. Of course they like you, Ma, squawked the goose. You're the most likable robot I've ever seen, and I've seen a lot. It was true. Brightbill had seen hundreds of different robots in the winter, and none of them were anything like Roz. None of them learned how to speak with animals, or had been saved an island from the cold, or had adopted a gosling. After he sat there, watching the robot's animal gestures and listening to her animal sounds, Brightbill realized how special his mother really was. Chapter 65, The Invitation. Roz was the first to arrive at the next dawn truce. She had an important announcement to make. The robot patiently waited at the great meadow, and the sky slowly brightened, and the animals slowly gathered. And once everyone was milling around and chatting, Roz began speaking in her perkiest voice. Pardon the interruption. If I could please have a moment of your time. The crowd settled down and listened to their robot friend. We have made it through a terrible winter. A new generation of youngsters is arriving, and my son Brightbill has just returned to the island with his flock. I think we can all agree that there is much to celebrate, so in addition to the dawn truce this morning, I would like to have another truce this evening. Can we call it an evening truce? Or better yet, the party truce? The crowd began chatting with excitement. I have a planned celebration, and you are all invited. I will take care of everything. Just meet back here at dusk. Oh, and I have a little surprise. Actually, it's not little, it's quite large. The point is, I have planned a celebration, and I'm hoping to see you all there. Sounds great, Roz, but I'm afraid there's one problem with your plan. Mr. Beaver blinked his beady eyes. The moon won't be out this evening, so it'll be dark for some of us to see. You are half correct, said Roz. Tonight will be moonless, but it will also not be dark, I promise. Now, if you excuse me, I must prepare for our party. I will see everyone back here at dusk. Goodbye. Chapter 66, The Celebration. Dawn turned into day turned into dusk, and just as Roz had asked, animals were gathering again at the great meadow. Word had spread across the island that the robot was throwing a party, and everyone wanted to see what the fuss was all about. The fuss seemed to be a giant stack of wood. Roz had spent the day collecting logs and branches and stacking them in a perfect massive tower. The animals crowded around it, trying to imagine its purpose, and then they saw a low golden light flickering in the distance. Roz emerged from the dark forest, and in her hand was a flaming stick, which she held up like a torch. She was camouflaged in mud and clusters of wildflowers, but her camouflage wasn't for hiding. It was her party dress. The animals watched as the robot glided across the meadow, surrounded by a warm glow. Thank you all for being here, she said as she joined the crowd. 1 year ago, I awoke on the shore of this island. I was just a machine. I functioned, but you, my friends, and my family, you have taught me how to live, and so I thank you. No, thank you, Roz, shouted a voice. You also have taught me to be wild, so let's celebrate life and wildness together. At those words, Roz heaved the torch high into the air. It soared up, 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 and it landed on the very top of the wooden tower. A ball of fire burst toward the light, and suddenly the meadow was bathed in fire. Hundreds of shining eyes watched as bright flames crept down the sides of the tower and embers floated away in the breeze. The animals stepped toward the bonfire, eager to feel its warmth, and then stepped back, afraid of feeling too much. And soon everyone was moving. The deer started leaping, the foxes started trotting, the snakes slithered, and the insects buzzed, and the fish jumped from the river. Bright Bill led all the birds into the air, and they were wheeling around the bonfire like a tornado of feathers. But Roz sprang into the wild dance, her shaggy dress shaking and swooshing, and with each movement, it was a wild party, and it took our robot to make it all happen. Roz and the animals partied all night long. They were so busy singing and laughing and dancing, they didn't even see the cargo ship as it sliced past the island. But the ship saw them. It saw the towering bonfire, it saw the robot, and then it quietly continued into the darkness. Can you see, Roz? Chapter 67, The Sunrise. By dawn, the bonfire had dwindled in smothering hull of ash. Everyone had gone home, and only Roz and Bright Bill remained in the meadow. They lay in the grass together, watching the soft light and moving morning creep from the horizon. And then Roz said, "Let us go for a walk." The robot and the goose hiked and flew up to their favorite spot in the grassy ridge. But then they kept going. They followed the ridge to the mountain and climbed up to the top, to the creaky peg, just in time to see the sunrise. "I climbed up here once before," said Roz. "I sat on this very rock and I looked out at the island, and I thought I would always be alone, but I was wrong." "Are you happy, Ma?" The robot thought for a moment. I am happy too." Bright Bill closed his eyes and felt the wind and the sun. There was a slight chill in the air that made him feel alive. Everything seemed just right. And then he heard a distant buzzing sound. The goose squinted. To the south, a familiar shape in the sky. He turned to his mother and said, "Ma, there's an airship flying this way!" Chapter 68, The Ricos. The airship Hurrah approached from the south, like some great migratory bird. The ship was sleek, white triangle, with a single dark window facing forward. 3 identical robots stared out the window. The robots resembled Roz, but they were bigger, bulkier, and shinier. The word Rico was lightly etched on each of their torsos, followed by their number unit. There were Rico 1, Rico 2, and Rico 3. The Ricos flew in a low circle around the island. They saw smoking ash of the hill. They saw mysterious wooden domes. They saw 4 dead robots scattered across the shore. The airship hovered around the robot graveside for a moment, and then it floated up to the island and lowered itself to the small meadow in front of the mountain. The engines blasted toward the ground, bending trees and tearing grass, and the landing gear sank into the soil. The engines powered down, and it was quiet. The door hummed open, and out stepped the Ricos. They took long strides into the meadow and stopped. A shadowy figure was lurking in the forest edge. The Ricos turned and faced it. They stood flush together like a sparkling wall, and their shadowy figure had begun to move. Out from the trees walked some of the 2-legged creature. It was dusty and dirty. Butterflies fluttered around the flowers and sprouted from its body. One of its feet was made of wood, and then the creature spoke. "Hello, my name is Roz." Chapter 69, The Defective Robot. "Hello, Rosum Unit 7134. We are the Ricos. We are here to retrieve all Rosum units." The cold, flat voice came from Rico 1. He and his partner stood absolutely still and kept glowing eyes locked on their target. There are 4 others," said Roz, "but they are all dead." "We have already located the remains of the other units," said Rico 1. "We will collect them later. Now, come with us." The 3 Ricos motioned Roz to the airship, but she didn't move. "Where have you come from?" she said. The Ricos turned and stared at Roz. "Do not ask questions," said Rico 1. "Where will you take me?" "Do not ask questions." "Why must I leave?" "Do not ask questions." "We will not go anywhere until I get some answer." There was a brief silence, and then Rico 1 computed his next move, and then he began to speak. 1 year ago, a cargo ship carrying 500 Rosum units was sunk by a hurricane. 495 units have been retrieved from the ocean floor. We have come here in search of the last 5, and we have located them. Rosum Unit 7134. You are the property of Tech Lab Industries. We will return you to the factory, where the makers will refurbish you and sell you to a worksite. You will live in their worksite indefinitely. Now come with us. But I live here, said Roz. That is incorrect, Rosum Unit 7134. Any further resistance will be proof of defectiveness, and we will deactivate you. But Roz had more questions. Who are the makers? What is my purpose? Why can I not ask questions? This unit is defective, said Rico 1 to his partners. Commence deactivation. In perfect unison, the Ricos stepped toward Roz. They raised their blocky hands, ready to restrain their target, ready to shut her down and press her button. With a loud squawk and a streak of feathers came in for them. Stay away from my mama! Bright Bill swooped into the meadow and started hopping around, ready to defend his mother. The Rico stopped and looked down at the goose. Of course they didn't understand his words. They only heard meaningless squawks. And then they heard the target squawking back at him. Bright Bill, get out of here! Those robots are dangerous! What do they want? They want to take me away. The Rico stared at the target, trying to understand why she was exchanging noises with a goose. And then new noises began rising up, rustling and shrieks and echoes from the forest. Animals were gathering, their wild voices calling out to one another. Roz needs help. The robots want to take her away. We have to do something. The uproar in the forest grew louder and louder. The Ricos peered past Roz toward the mysterious noises. They only saw foliage. Suddenly, shadows swept across the meadow. Bright Bill's flock dove in onto the Ricos. The geese furiously flapped and pecked and wrapped their wings around the robots' faces, clinging to the Ricos like feathery masks, distracting them, blinding them. Bright Bill turned to his mother. Run! Chapter 70. The Hunt Begins. While the flock distracted the Ricos, Bright Bill darted around behind them and desperately searched for the buttons. He had once shut down his own mother with a click, and now he would do the same to the intruders. But he found no buttons on these robots, only smooth surfaces. Clearly, the Ricos were not designed to be shut down so easily. Giant hands swung through the air. The geese were swatted away. Loudwig was plucked by her wing was plucked by her foot and flung to the ground. She crawled into the weeds, and others scrambled up to others in the tree. The quick scan of the robots revealed that Roz was gone. 3 Ricos turned and marched back to the airship. The door hummed open, and the robots disappeared inside. And when they stepped back into the meadow, each robot holding a silver rifle in his hands. The hunt for Roz was on. Without speaking, the Ricos marched away from one another, fanning out into the standard search pattern. Rico 1 marched straight forward to the southern tip of the island. Rico 2 marched straight up to the mountainside. And Rico 3 marched straight into the forest. Kind of a cliffhanger. See you next time.